So why don't we get into the New York Jets? And I know a lot of people are going to sit here and complain about what Zach Wilson didn't say after the Patriot game. He is a kid. And I know a lot of people are going to sit here and say he should have taken responsibility and he should have done this and he should have done that. He's playing in New York. And obviously the press is going to be on him as they should be. But he didn't play well against New England Patriots. In New England, he did not play well. And the Jets defense was as good as we've seen it all season long. They completely shut down Mac Jones. They completely shut down the Patriots running game. But the New York Jets needed good quarterback play. Not great, not excellent, not superior, but they needed good quarterback play. Zach Wilson couldn't produce. Maybe it was too windy. Maybe it was too cold. Mac Jones was playing in that wind. Mac Jones was playing in that cold. 250 some odd yards. Mac Jones still threw in the game. Not to say he had a great game, but he outplayed Zach Wilson, who was drafted the same year he was at number 2. And a lot of questions are going to have to be answered with Robert Saleh and the way Mike LaFleur has coached this kid. Mike LaFleur's play calling has been horrendous. I don't want to hear about what he did against Buffalo in the fourth quarter running the ball. The Patriots are one of the better run-stopping teams in the NFL. Why would you run the ball over and over and over again when you had a chance to air the ball out and see what you have in Zach Wilson? Garrett Wilson was frustrated. Denzel Mims was frustrated. Elijah Moore was frustrated. Even the running backs in James Robinson and Michael Carter being used wrong. And they're using Ty Johnson way too much. We sit back and we wonder what this team is as the New York Jets move closer and closer to a playoff spot. 6-4. Now the Patriots 6-5 after the Patriots lose against Minnesota in Minnesota on Thursday Night Football. Are the Jets good enough or capable enough to make it to the playoffs this year? Everybody keeps saying, well, they don't have a starting quarterback now. Mike White is absolutely competent behind the line of scrimmage. Confident kid. We saw him against the Bengals last year. We saw him in a couple of games after that. The guy can throw the ball. The guy can make plays. You do not need to throw 300, 400 yards like he did against the Bengals to win. This defense is an absolute dominant defense. Their secondary is the best in the league. Gardner and DJ Reed. Their safety play with Joyner and Whitehead have been just as good as anybody in the leagues. They have a man-child in the middle named Quentin Williams who's absolutely causing havoc in the middle. The question is, with what Zach Wilson didn't do at the press conference, not taking responsibility, not showing his team that he is a leader, is that the reason why Robert Saleh sat him?
I think it definitely is, because I think at this point in the season, it's very tough to be able to trust that kind of locker room presence. Now, I'm surprised he did it because it's hard to change when you're that good and try to make it work. We saw San Francisco do it with Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick in 2012. People are going to use that as the example, but it usually doesn't work right away. We saw Cleveland fail with it with Johnny Manziel. So I'm surprised, but yeah, I would say that is why it is, because the game itself was very sloppy in New England. Neither team played great. The Patriots defense and the Jets defense were both fantastic, and they both were awful on special teams and both awful on offense. So I don't think there was one single guy you could single out to say they were the reason the Jets lost that game. There was the special teams coverage, there was the offensive line, there was the lack of a running game. You could blame a lot of different factors. It wasn't just Zach Wilson, but once he said that, yeah, I think that was the final straw for why Mike White is starting.
And Robert Saleh already came out in the press conference and said this is not over for Zach Wilson. He will start again this year. The question is, when is he going to start this year? And when does Robert Saleh think that he is ready to step back on that field and be the play caller for this New York Jet team? So there's a lot of questions for this New York Jet team. And by the way, that punt return at the end of the game, that should have been held back. That should have been called back because there were so many penalties. There were so many holding calls. If you watch the replay of that game, you could see pictures of two players on the New York Jets being held, one of them almost being put in a headlock. Even if the Jets didn't win in overtime, it should have went to overtime. When you expect another team to work harder, to do more, to win a game, that is not fair. And the Patriots, for the last couple of weeks, I've watched a lot of Patriot games. I want to see when a referee is going to call a play dead or call a penalty on the Jets or call a penalty on the Buffalo Bills, I want to see the same when the Patriots need to have a call called on them, which could cost them 7 points, which could cost them a field goal kick, which could cost them a game. So it hasn't happened a lot this year. I've watched enough Patriot games to see that they get away with a lot of stuff. And Bill Belichick is a crybaby on the sidelines too. But that's not why the Jets lost. They lost because they couldn't produce in the big parts of the game. They had plenty of chances. Nick Folk missed 2 field goal kicks in that game. When he missed those field goals, they were set up on the 40-yard line. They were set up on the 35-yard line. They were set up very, very well to bring the ball down and take a lead. There is no excuses for Zach Wilson. There is no excuses for this offense. There's no excuses for Mike LaFleur. The fact is, what we saw on Sunday, we cannot see this Sunday against the Chicago Bears.
And I agree with you on LaFleur. I think he held the Jets offense back a lot in that second half. You saw a lot of screen passes that really did not work out. I agree with you on Ty Johnson, too. You saw him run him inside for whatever reason, and he's a pass-catching back. That makes no sense. James Robinson was a better inside runner. They used a little more outside, and he barely used him in that game. He only had 7 total carries. That's inexcusable. And they never adjusted when they were taking away Denzel Mims, who did well against the Patriots in the first meeting. Even against Garrett Wilson, there was never any adjustments for LaFleur to try to use him in different ways. You saw Minnesota against the Patriots on Thanksgiving use wide receivers all over the place. KJ Osborne, their slot receiver, was used a lot in the backfield. Justin Jefferson was used in the slot and outside. This is something that teams like the Jets, who have all these receivers, have to take advantage of and try to help out their quarterback that way. And that's why I'm saying all this thing is not on Zach Wilson. But again, they're going to have to do it no matter who's at quarterback. Now, Mike Weiss at quarterback, they have to make it easier on him too. Yes, he had a nice flash last year. It was the Bengals on a letdown game, and it was a lot of garbage time against the Colts too. It's not like he's some kind of great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's like a competent backup, like you said. But they're going to have to do everything to help him too. And I don't think Mike LaFleur's done it.
I think they can win with Mike White. The question is Mike LaFleur going to put him in a position to succeed? Because he put Zach Wilson the last couple of weeks into failing. Some people are calling Zach Wilson Hannah Montana. Get him out. He stinks. The guy was 5-0. He was undefeated on the road. Oh, it wasn't because of him. It was because of the defense. He needed to make the throws. He needed to make the plays when he needed to. So I don't want to hear that he can't make the plays and you can't win with Zach Wilson. You can absolutely win with Zach Wilson. You don't need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You need an elite defense, which the Jets have, and you need an elite running game, which the Jets do have in certain aspects of the game. They did lose Breece Hall, but getting James Robinson and Michael Carter, this is a good, competent running game. If they can control the line of scrimmage when this offensive line gets healthy, watch out. The Jets could still win and still cause havoc at the line of scrimmage. And then there's the New York Giants. This was a big game for the Giants, even though they're fighting so much injury. And I have to give a lot of credit to Dable. Nobody thought the Giants would be in position where they are right now. But going into Dallas, seeing that the Giants were starting to figure out what their offense is and what this offense could be. Now, with all the injuries that they have on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball, you would think going into this game, they would try to control the clock, run the ball, control the line of scrimmage. The Giants could not do that in the second half of the game. What was so interesting in the first half of the game is the Cowboys just couldn't find their legs. Dak Prescott made a significant amount of mistakes in the first half. He threw a couple interceptions, and you would think that the Giants were going to pull away early in this game. But going into the half, the Cowboys really won the half. With all the mistakes that Dak Prescott and that offense made, they were only down 13-7. That was the reason why the Cowboys came back and won the game.
Yeah, the Cowboys' overall pace of the game definitely outplayed. The running game was definitely a big factor, like it was in the first meeting as well. It was Ezekiel Elliott mostly in the beginning of the game. Pollard got it going later. CeeDee Lamb was pretty good at certain parts in the second half, not as good in the first half, but you're right. The Giants did keep them in with the turnovers, but I do think that ended up holding them back. Saquon Barkley also getting contained for the most part was a big difference as well. Dallas has done well in both meetings. I know he had the big touchdown rush over 70 yards in the first meeting, but the Cowboys have done great at consistently carry to carry, being able to shut down Saquon as well. Now, the Giants were batting a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They lost 3 defensive players in that game. Kayvon Thibodeau looked really good, but the rest of that front did not look great, and I think that ended up hurting them against that run defense in the second half. And Dallas's offensive line showing why they have been very good. Penalties that hold them back in a lot of instances. They still had, I think, 9 in the game. And Mike McCarthy's teams have always had that kind of issue. But I think the Cowboys show why they're just that much better than the Giants right now. The Giants are better coached. They probably are doing better for their roster talent, but Dallas shows why they're still better.